The winter dusk fell slow upon the small town, and the bell tower tolled as though it mourned with the weary. Lantern lights spilled from the church windows, casting thin gold across the packed dirt road. People gathered in their Sunday best, their voices hushed but sharp, the kind of murmurs that cut deeper than shouts. At the edge of it all stood Clara May Holloway, her veil once white now dulled to gray with the dust of years. She watched, frozen, as her husband, Marshall Royce Holloway, slipped a new ring onto a younger woman's hand. The crowd sighed, some with pity, more with approval. Her fingers trembled against the chill, and the cold air bit her cheeks red, though it was the silence in her throat that carried the deeper wound. She could not summon even one word. Instead, she stood with a hollow grace, letting the whispers swirl. She gave him no air. A man must have legacy. Poor Clara May. Their voices clung to her skin like burrs in tall grass. Clara did not cry. She only turned away from the churchyard, her hem trailing through the dirt, her bare feet silent as she carried her shame past the glow of lanterns. Her heart fractured soundlessly, the way brittle glass breaks beneath cloth. That same evening, Ezekiel Hartwell rode in from the canyon trail. A wandering cowboy, lean and road-worn, with dust in his hair and leather worn thin at the cuffs. His horse's breath steamed against the cold, and his eyes, steady, patient, caught sight of Clara May walking alone. There was something about her, a stillness too heavy for the slight figure she was. He saw the pale face under lamplight, the way she clutched her shawl tighter around herself, as if to hold the pieces together. Later, in the saloon, Zeke overheard the gossip. Holloway had taken another bride, the whispers went. His first wife, left like a coat no longer needed. The men laughed in low tones, and women shook their heads with cruel certainty. Zeke said nothing, but he thought of Clara May again, of the way she moved through the night like someone fading from the world. On the road outside, Clara walked home with her daughter, Eliza Ray, a girl with curls wild as meadow grass, clutching her mother's hand with small fingers. Her eyes held questions she did not speak. Zeke watched from the shadows, something unnameable stirring in him. A man's cruelty should not be her sentence, he thought, though he let the words stay buried. The days that followed carried quiet gestures. Clara would find firewood stacked neatly by her porch, though she had not chopped it. A loaf of bread left at the door, still warm, from Miss Hattie's kitchen, but delivered without note. A fence post mended overnight, though she had not asked. When Eliza played outside, Zeke would sometimes pass by, offering a tip of his hat. The girl laughed when he carved her a wooden horse, its shape rough but alive. Clara, at first, resisted such kindness. Pity, she believed, was a weight worse than cruelty. She kept her eyes lowered, speaking little, though her heart was not blind. She saw the cowboy kneel to offer her daughter that toy, saw the way he did not force cheer, but simply gave, then stepped back. The town's tongue sharpened quickly. She's already got a man circling, they hissed. What will Holloway say when he hears? Miss Hattie herself, though kind of heart, warned Clara one evening in the inn. You mind yourself, child. Folks here watch a widow closer than they watch their own doorstep. Clara only nodded, shame like stones pressing into her chest. Zeke heard the same whispers, yet he did not leave. His silence was steady as oak, and it shielded her more than words might have. One late afternoon, as the sky bruised purple, Clara returned from the well with Eliza. The girl laughed with a bucket sloshing in her hands. But when they reached the gate, a figure already stood waiting. Marshall Holloway, proud as ever, anger dark in his eyes. He looked at Clara with contempt. You'll not stay in my house. It belongs to my bride now. Pack what's yours and go. The words stripped the air from her chest. She clutched Eliza close, the child startled into silence. For a moment, Clara thought her knees would buckle, that despair would carry her into the dust. Then came the sound of hooves, a rider dismounting. Zeke Hartwell walked forward, steady as stone, his gaze fixed on Holloway. His voice, when it came, was low but unyielding. Then I'll take his greatest loss. The world seemed to hold its breath. Clara's eyes widened. Eliza's small hand clung to Zeke's sleeve, and the dusk itself drew still. The church bells far behind ceased their tolling, and silence wrapped the moment like a shroud, holding it suspended on the edge of change. The air seemed to tighten after those words, as if the whole town had drawn a single breath and dared not let it go. Holloway's lip curled, his pride stung. You claim her? You, a drifter with nothing but dust on your boots. He spat on the ground, as though to make Clara smaller than she already felt. But Zeke did not flinch. His silence carried the weight of something deeper than Holloway could touch. Clara stood frozen, her daughter's small hand against her side. Shame fought with the faintest spark of relief. She had not asked for rescue, yet in that moment, she was not abandoned. Holloway's words cut sharp, but Zeke's presence softened their edge, his stillness a shield between her and the cruel judgment. The next morning, with no more claim to the house, Clara packed what little she owned into a single trunk. The cabin by the creek, an old place Zeke had found half collapsed, became her new shelter. He set his back and hands to work, patching the roof with cedar planks, mending the chimney with stone, setting the door straight on its hinges. Clara lit the lantern each evening, and the glow stretched against the dark, no longer a widow's tomb, but the beginning of something else. Life formed itself in fragments, the scent of bread rising from the hearth, Eliza's laughter as Zeke lifted her onto a pony's back, Clara's quiet hum while she stitched at night. Zeke never pressed into their silence, only filled it with steady acts, splitting wood, hauling water, listening to the creek's endless murmur. Clara's voice, at first cautious, began to carry again, light as the sound of thread sliding through cloth. One stormy night, rain struck the windows like 1,000 hurried fingers. Inside, the fire flickered golden warm. Eliza slept curled in Clara's lap, her breath soft as a bird's. Zeke sat nearby, whittling, each curl of wood falling into the firelight. The hush between them was not empty, but alive. After a while, Zeke placed another log on the fire and murmured, almost to himself, "She dreams safe tonight." Clara's eyes lifted to his. Their gaze held. No declarations, no grand promises, just a fragile bridge stretched across years of silence and hurt. Something passed between them then, unspoken yet true. But peace is never left untouched. Word reached Holloway that his cast-off wife was living under another man's care, and pride gnawed at him like hunger. He swaggered through town, spreading venom. That drifter ain't no savior. He's a thief, a squatter, a man with no name worth speaking. Some townsfolk began to draw back from Zeke, their eyes colder when Clara walked the street. Yet a few had seen differently, Miss Hattie among them. She spoke soft but steady at the end. "I've seen how he lifts her burden, and I'll not call that shame." The tension swelled until one evening Holloway rode to the cabin, his stallion dark against the fading light. He dismounted heavy, boots striking the ground like thunder. "Clara May," he barked, "you'll come back with me. I'll not have this shame on my name." Zeke stepped forward, but Clara raised a hand, trembling, yet firm. For the first time, she did not look at Holloway with pleading eyes, but with a gaze sharpened by loss and lit with truth. Her voice broke, but did not falter. "I was never your loss. I was your blindness." The word struck like a lash across Holloway's pride. His face twisted, yet he found no reply. Zeke remained at her side, not as rescuer, but as witness, his quiet strength holding her upright. Holloway turned on his heel, fury driving him back to his horse, and thundered away, stripped not of his wife but of his power. Clara stood in the doorway of her cabin, chest heaving, eyes wet but alive. Around them, the silence of the creek and trees felt like applause. She stepped back inside, not the abandoned wife of Holloway, but a woman who had claimed her own ground. Zeke lingered on the porch, hat in hand, waiting, not assuming, not demanding. Eliza burst from the cabin, laughing, throwing the door wide. Clara met Zeke's eyes, and though no words passed, hope, once a stranger, entered quietly and did not leave. And so the story closed not on grand kisses or shouted vows, but on a fire burning steady through the night, a child's laughter echoing into the dark, and two souls learning to breathe again side by side. And if you, dear listener, have ever felt cast aside, remember this. We are not defined by those who discard us, but by the hands that steady us when we stumble. Sometimes life's greatest gift is not being chosen first, but being seen when we thought we were invisible.